Engines scream against the night sky. Somewhere over occupied Europe, 18,000 feet above a burning coastline, a formation breaks. Flak, flak, port side, whole formation. Black bursts rip through the clouds. Shrapnel hammers the fuselage like steel rain. One bomber staggers, another vanishes into smoke. Then, something unexpected cuts through the chaos. Low, fast, silent compared to the rest. Not the heavy, lumbering Avro Lancaster the Germans had learned to track, but a sleeker, deadlier silhouette, slipping beneath radar, diving through flak corridors others couldn't survive. Control to Red Leader. Unknown twin-engine aircraft approaching target ahead of schedule. Ahead of schedule. Unheard of. While the Lancasters fight to stay alive in the storm, this aircraft is already over the target. Bomb bay doors opening. Strike precise and gone before the searchlights can lock on. No fanfare. No headlines. No legend. But tonight, it just outperformed Britain's most famous bomber. And almost no one remembers its name. This is the story of the most underrated bomber of World War II that engines scream against the night sky. Somewhere over occupied Europe, 18,000 feet above a burning coastline, a formation fractures. Flak, flak, port side, hold formation. Black burst here open the clouds. Shrapnel slams into metal. A wing catches fire. One bomber drops out of line, gone in seconds. Searchlights claw upward. They're hunting the heavy silhouette of the Avro Lancaster, predictable, powerful, and exposed. But then, something else moves through the chaos. Lower, faster, sharper. A twin-engine aircraft slices beneath the flak ceiling, skimming through darkness where the others can't go. No tight formation, no slow climb, just speed and precision. Control, target visual releasing now. Bombs fall, accurate, devastating, silent, before the defenses can react. It's already turned for home. No spotlight, no fame, no legend. Yet on nights like this, it did what the Lancaster couldn't. This is the story of the aircraft they underestimated. The Havilland Mosquito. The intercom crackles, strained, urgent. Stay tight, we're almost there. Below, the target burns through a veil of cloud. Anti-aircraft guns rise to meet them, methodical, relentless. The sky isn't empty, it's alive with fire. A Lancaster shudders violently. Metal screams. Hydraulics gone. We're losing. Static gone. The formation pushes on. They have to. There's no turning back now. Not with fuel calculated to the minute. Not with fighters already climbing to intercept. Searchlights snap on one, then 10, then dozens. White beams pierce the darkness, locking onto the bombers like fingers of fate. Once caught, there's no escape. Night fighters incoming. Break right. But breaking formation means isolation. Isolation means death. And then something impossible happens. A shadow cuts across the chaos, not above, but beneath it, fast enough to blur, low enough to vanish. No formation, no hesitation, just intent. It threads through the flak like it knows the pattern, like it's already seen this battlefield before. Unidentified aircraft. Speed too high, can't track. Inside the cockpit, there's no panic, no shouting, just precision, calm voices, calculated movements, altitude dropping, engines pushing beyond comfort, every second shaved closer to the target. While the heavy bombers fight the sky itself, this aircraft is hunting something else entirely. Timing, opportunity, weakness, target in sight, steady, no room for error, no margin for survival if they miss. Bombs release, a direct hit, shock waves ripple outward, controlled destruction, not chaos. And before the guns can adjust, before the fighters can descend, it's already gone. No escort, no protection. It doesn't need any, because by the time the enemy reacts, it's already out of reach. This wasn't luck. This wasn't an exception. This was design. A machine built not to endure the battlefield, but to outsmart it. And in doing so, it quietly changed the balance of the war. WWII 1940. Britain was desperate. After the chaos of the Battle of France, the Royal Air Force needed a way to strike back, deep into enemy territory. The answer became Bomber Command's backbone, the heavy bombers, massive payloads, long range, devastation from altitude. Among them, the Lancaster stood supreme, but it came with a cost. Slow, vulnerable, dependent on formation flying. Entire crews lost in seconds when flak or night fighters found their mark. Then came an idea that sounded almost reckless. Build a bomber without guns, no defensive turrets, no heavy armor, just speed. That aircraft became the Mosquito. Constructed largely from wood, birch, and balsa, it was lighter than its metal counterparts. But what seemed like a compromise became its greatest advantage. It was fast, exceptionally fast, faster than many fighters early in the war. At altitude, it could exceed 400 miles per hour. That meant something radical. It didn't need to fight. It could simply outrun danger. While Lancasters climbed in large formations, attracting radar and flak, Mosquitoes operated in small numbers or even alone. They flew lower, faster, and with surgical intent. Precision over brute force. Its payload was smaller, yes, but its accuracy was unmatched. In 1943, over Berlin, something remarkable happened. While hundreds of bombers struggled through layers of defenses, a handful of Mosquitoes slipped through first. Their mission wasn't just destruction, it was disruption. They struck communication centers, power nodes, command hubs. Then they vanished. German defenses scrambled, but too late. From the enemy's perspective, the Mosquito was a nightmare. Fastest thing in the sky, some night fighter pilots called it. Radar operators would detect it, but interception was nearly impossible. By the time fighters climbed to engage, it was already gone. Even the feared Messerschmitt Bf-110 struggled to catch it. The Mosquito didn't just bomb. It performed pathfinding, marking targets ahead of heavy bombers. It ran reconnaissance missions, bringing back critical intelligence. It even carried out precision strikes on prisons' headquarters and Gestapo facilities. One mission stood out: a daylight strike on Amiens prison in 1944. Low altitude, high speed. Mosquitoes roared in just above the treetops, bombs hitting the walls with terrifying accuracy, breaching them without leveling the entire structure. A rescue operation executed in seconds. No heavy bomber could have done that. Strategically, the Mosquito changed how air warfare was fought. It proved that speed and precision could rival, and sometimes surpass, raw firepower. It forced Germany to divert resources, to rethink defenses, to chase something it could barely catch, and all while remaining in the shadows of larger, louder aircraft. What made the Havilland Mosquito truly revolutionary wasn't just its speed. It was how it reshaped doctrine. Bomber Command had long believed survival came from numbers, tight formations, interlocking gun turrets, mutual defense. The Mosquito rejected all of it. Instead of 8 guns and heavy armor, it carried none. Instead of relying on others, it relied on performance. Pilots weren't trained to endure attacks. They were trained to avoid them entirely. This forced a tactical evolution. Targets that once required hundreds of bombers could now be struck by a handful of Mosquitoes. Precision reduced collateral damage. Speed reduced losses. And the results were undeniable. Loss rates for Mosquito missions were dramatically lower than those of heavy bomber raids. Crews had a higher chance of returning. Missions could be repeated faster. Even psychologically, the impact was significant. German command couldn't predict them. They came at odd hours, different altitudes, unexpected angles, sometimes even daylight, where traditional bombers would never dare. The Mosquito turned unpredictability into a weapon. And in war, unpredictability is often more powerful than firepower. The war ended with legends written in steel and fire. The Avro Lancaster became a symbol of endurance, of sacrifice, of overwhelming force. But not all victories were loud. Some came quietly, at 400 miles per hour in the dark. The de Havilland Mosquito never needed to announce itself. It didn't rely on numbers. It didn't depend on armor. It relied on something far more dangerous: speed, precision, surprise. It was the aircraft that rewrote the rules, that proved you didn't need to carry the biggest bomb to deliver the most decisive blow. Pilots trusted it. Enemies feared it. Strategists studied it. And yet, history almost let it fade. Perhaps because it didn't fit the image of a bomber. Perhaps because its victories were too clean, too efficient, too quiet. But in the skies over Europe, through flak, fire, and fear, it did something extraordinary. It outperformed expectation. It outpaced danger. And on missions where survival itself was uncertain, it delivered, not with noise, but with precision. And sometimes in war, the aircraft you never hear coming is the one that changes everything. History tends to remember what is visible, the largest explosions, the biggest formations, the aircraft that filled the sky and shook the ground beneath them. That's why the Avro Lancaster became a legend, because its presence was impossible to ignore. But the Mosquito operated differently. It didn't need spectacle. It didn't need recognition. It operated in the margins, in the gaps, in the moments others couldn't reach. Its victories weren't always measured in tonnage dropped, but in targets eliminated, operations disrupted, and lives quietly saved. Every mission flown faster meant fewer minutes exposed to flak. Every precise strike meant fewer follow-up raids. Every successful return meant another experienced crew ready to fly again. This wasn't just efficiency. It was evolution. The Mosquito hinted at the future of aerial warfare, where intelligence, speed, and accuracy would define success more than sheer destructive power. And in many ways, it was ahead of its time. Pilots who flew it often described something rare in combat aviation. Confidence. Not arrogance, but trust. Trust that the aircraft could carry them through danger not by enduring it, but by avoiding it altogether. That kind of trust changes how wars are fought. Because when crews believe they can survive, they perform differently. They take calculated risks. They execute with clarity. And that changes outcomes. So while history carved monuments to the loudest machines of war, the Mosquito remained something else entirely. A quiet revolution. A precision instrument in an age of mass destruction. And perhaps that's why its story still matters. Because it reminds us that in the chaos of war, innovation doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers past at 400 miles per hour, unseen, unstoppable, and unforgettable. Even after the war, the story of the Havilland Mosquito didn't fade because it failed. It faded because it didn't fit the narrative. It wasn't the heaviest. It wasn't the most armed. It didn't dominate headlines like the Avro Lancaster or other giants of the sky. But in operational terms, it was one of the most efficient aircraft ever built. It proved that survivability wasn't just about armor. It was about avoiding being hit at all. It proved that fewer aircraft, used smarter, could achieve what entire formations struggle to do. And it proved that innovation, when executed correctly, doesn't need recognition to be effective. Long after World War II ended, its design philosophy echoed forward into faster jets, precision strike doctrines, and modern air combat strategy. Because the real legacy of the Mosquito isn't just what it did, it's what it taught. That speed can be a shield. That precision can outweigh power. And that sometimes the most dangerous weapon in the sky is the one no one sees coming.